Now vignettes also fit within this category of global optimizing, but in kind of a unique way, because vignettes, or at least the feature within Lightroom, was really never initially designed for doing any sort of enhancing of an image. It was meant as a correction to a problem with exposure. If with wide-angle lenses or cheaper lenses, the ability to get a consistent exposure across the entire film plane, as it used to be called, was the problem. And therefore, being able to go into a vignettes option, like we have here, and doing a lens correction, usually lightening it up a little bit, and expanding or contracting how far it goes in, you are able to get a more consistent exposure. We look at this right here. You can see by lightening it up, it's more consistent across the entire sky. But Adobe quickly found out that that's not how photographers wanted to use it. They wanted to add vignette to, of course, draw the eye into the composition. Light edges draw the eye away from the center of our composition, and so darkening it is usually a good thing associated with our storytelling. So, we've had the vignette. The problem is that if you try and do a vignette to something like this, using our traditional lens vignette, we come down here and we take it, you go, I'm not seeing much of anything going on here, even if we take our midpoint in or out, because of course it's not taking into account the crop of the image. Okay? So that's our problem, or that has been the challenge. You can compensate for that a little bit by doing a lot of choking and spreading, what it's typically called, to try and pull it in, but that's really not giving you what you need or want. But it does give you an effect, and it should be taken into account, because the alternative post-crop vignette, the brand new feature in Lightroom 2, does have problems because it's really not a vignette in the typical sense of the word. We look over here at something like this shot, which isn't cropped. Okay, this is our original image, no crop whatsoever. And we take our lens correction, and let's say that we darken that down. You can see that the white portions of the image are not darkening, because this is not just adding black or white to the image. This is actually doing a dodge and burn. It's taking the colors inherent in the file and it's actually darkening or lightening them up, as it should. It's exactly what it should be doing, because of course if it's trying to compensate for something with exposure, it's not just black or white ink. As opposed to, let's reset this. By the way, you know that double clicking on any slider within Lightroom automatically resets it to the default. If the setting, such as the ones in the Basic tab, have auto options where it's intelligent, then Shift double clicking automatically will set that to whatever it thinks should be the best setting. Another one of those little hidden tips. So let's go ahead and try the post crop on this image and darken it down. And here you quickly see that post crop is not dodging and burning. Post crop is actually just blurred borders. It's nice, it's useful. If you don't have a lot of highlights in the file, then it can be fine. But it's really just a multiply of either black or a screen of white. And in that sense, I don't think it's quite done. The next incarnation of Lightroom hopefully will have the option that the post crop can either be a dodge and burn or a add black. Okay, but so it's useful, but if you haven't cropped the image significantly, just remember that lens correction is, from my standpoint, a significantly better way of doing a vignette than post crop. But what are some of the uses for post crop, especially if you do have an image that has some sort of crop or asymmetrical crop? Then of course a post crop can be very useful, especially when you're doing a special effect like this, when you're trying to come up here and purposely do that little dream-like glow to an image, as we're doing here. In this case, getting rid of the distraction of, I think, a backpack on one shoulder and the leotard on another, drawing the eye into the center. Post-crop vignette is totally fine because it's a special effect. Same thing here, we've got a lot of tone. You're really, even though we've got a significant crop and it's asymmetrical, because there's so much color in it, you really can't tell what's going on in terms of the darkening of the edge. Here in this case, I am taking the amount down and the feather up in order to soften the transition. You can see if we take that down that it's really just a bordering effect. Speaking of border, can we use that? Let's take another infrared shot. You've seen that getting all sorts of infrared samples here just because I absolutely love infrared. Here's a shot of Santa Monica Pier taken with a converted Canon SD870. Find out more about infrared and conversion, you can go to adventuresinphotoshop.com, my link site for all my students. I think there's even a discount code there for getting conversions. But in this case, let's do an edge. We've got an old shot, an old pier. It's got this, sepia inherent color to it. What I like to do if I am doing a border is you take all the amounts down, shift everything down, and that way you end up with a hard-edged border, either black or white. So if we're going for something like that, if we're going for a little bit of a border treatment, can't make it square, there's no way to square it up, but in this case to look like it's some handheld little postcard print, this may be exactly what you're looking for. So for more of a border effect, remember to take your midpoint, roundness, and feather down to the left-hand side. Your roundness will determine how much it encroaches in on your subject. Amount, of course, is whether it is going to be white or black. And you're set. If you do want kind of a border treatment, but you do want it soft, of course, that's your feather. You can kind of get the best of all worlds. Now you've kind of burnt that edge as if it was really burnt with lighter or something. And here I'm taking just up a little bit more, so it's not quite, it's more of a subtle edge to it, but it's still hugging the edge of my cropped image because my midpoint and roundness are all the way down. There you have it, just a few tips on vignetting. Remember, post-crop vignette is just a blurred border. Lens correction is dodging and burning, and whether you use it as subtle or extreme fashion, it's a great addition to your little bat utility belt of image enhancing.